It's time now for a brand new episode of Waddle's VCR! Yes, folks, my format's new, but I still have my good old VCR. And what better way to utilize it than with an episode of my vintage cartoon review show? And guess what we have for you today?
Yes, it's Falling Hare, a classic. This is a great film for 3 reasons. 1, it's a public domain Bugs, so it was on most of the Bugs tapes and all over television. 2, it was directed by Robert Clampett, and with him, you know you're in for a good old wacky land time. And 3, it features a gremlin. But what is a gremlin? Well, here's Bugs to tell us.
It says here, a constant menace to pilots are the Gremlins who wreck planes with their diabolical sabotage.
The Gremlins myth grew in popularity when it was turned into a children's book by Charlie and the Chocolate Factory author Roald Dahl in '43. And of course there was a famous Twilight Zone episode in which William Shatner sees one on the wing of a plane. But I think most people are best familiar with the 1984 film by Warner Brothers and Steven Spielberg. Since I brought it up, for some reason the studio wants to remake this classic, but Spielberg pulled a Dan Aykroyd and will only allow it under his consent. I love those guys. So, Mr. Spielberg, I have a few suggestions. First off, get Joe Dante back to direct. And get Zach Galligan and Phoebe Cates back to star. And Dick Miller back to co-star. And Chris Wallace back to do the puppets. And what the heck, just call it Gremlins 3. Yeah, I'd see that.
So our cartoon begins at an airfield, where Bugs has his first encounter with a little critter, here at a blockbuster bomb.
These blockbuster bombs don't go off unless you hit them just right. Yeah? Yeah.
We are then treated to some of the greatest still frames by some of Warner Brothers' most talented animators. If you have a slow motion button on your VCR, then use it. Trust me, these cells are just as funny to look at. It should be worth noting that one of the animators on this film was Bill Melendez. He went on to direct all of Charles Schulz's Charlie Brown cartoons up until his death in 2008.
Wow, how patriotic is he? I mean, he animated the Looney Tunes fighting Hitler and Snoopy fighting the Red Baron. I went after Bin Laden once.
The rest of this cartoon takes place, appropriately enough, on the airplane.
There's something out there. No. A rabbit.
Oh, and here's a pretty traumatic childhood scene, at least for me. Imagine being a little kid, waking up early one Saturday morning, no school, just a whole morning of cartoons. Nice, kid-friendly, G-rated cartoons. And then seeing this. I guess if Bugs said it, it's okay, right?
Your brother ran out the door early this morning.
What a jackass. What did I say? Ugh. Ugh. I can still taste that.
So the little ghoulie continues to torment Bugs. You know, that's another good thing about Clampett. With Jones or McKinson, Bugs would have already gotten the best of this little munchie. But in a Clampett, it's anyone's game. Definitely makes it more interesting. And so we end here on a terrifying ride down. What's gonna happen? How's it gonna end?
Sorry, folks. We ran out of gas. Yeah, you know how it is with these A-cards.
Well, I'm sure that got a good laugh back in '43. It's a little confusing nowadays. What the heck is an A-card? Well, I'll explain. During the war, all the gas was going to the armed forces, so the home front had to ration. If your car had an A card on the windshield, you were limited the amount of gas you were able to get. Think about that the next time you're bitching and moaning at the pumps. While some consider the gags in this cartoon outdated, I consider it educational. Not to mention, this film is already historical. I mean, it's the first ever screen adaptation of a Gremlin, and it takes place during the war on an airplane.
Who would have thought of ever making a movie out of that? Hello? Hello? Yeah, I got the movie script idea. Okay, have Dick Miller play Mr. Futterman babysitting Billy and Kate's grandkids, and then telling them the stories of the Gremlins in the past, and then pull Leonard Nimoy, flash back to World War II, and have the rest of the movie take place on a warplane, with the Gremlins attacking it. And you could even recast Christopher Lee as Dr. Catheter's Nazi ancestor. He could be the same guy he played in 1941. So what do you think, Steven? Well, who is this? Michael who? Who?
Abbott would top off his Gremlins cartoons a year later with Russian Rhapsody, a film some fans say is far superior. From a timepiece point of view, yeah, but for zaniness, it'll always be this one for me. Watch both and make your own decision. They're both great films. This is Waddle from Watch Waddle. Thanks for watching.